How about now? Thank you. It's it's first stream. Great job. Um, here I was going off and didn't realize my sound wasn't working. So, wonderful. So cool. I was I was getting way into it and had no idea that my sound wasn't working. So, awesome. Um, at least I didn't get too far into it. I guess I could start back over. So we can just go from here. Thanks for letting me know. So, as I was saying, this is Introduction to Computer User Support. CTS 217, Computer Training and Support. In this class, we have a few goals. And our goals are, outlined by kind of what this class is all about. And what this class is all about is, our course description here. And our course description is, kind of what we had here in our yeah, no worries. No worries. It's first time. So let's see, where were we? Yeah, so as you work through Module 0, you're getting acquainted with what the course is kind of about, and like the evaluation methods and all that kind of stuff for the course. And, I wanted to talk briefly about what the course is all about. And so the course is, essentially encapsulated in the course description. And the course description is in the syllabus, which is also in Module 0. So this course introduces computer training and support techniques. Topics include methods of adult learning, training design, delivery and evaluation, creating documentation, and user support methods. Upon completion, students should be able to design and implement training and provide continued support for computer users. So, the idea here being that we will touch all of these topics as we go throughout the course. We'll look at methods of adult learning, which is a big deal because, as you enter into computer user support, you'll be working with adults and training adults on how to use computers and doing various things on their computers. Like one of the jobs that is given to a help desk tech support agent is training. So you'll have to conduct training. And part of being able to understand how to do training is understanding how adults learn. And from there, you have an understanding of training design and delivery and evaluation of that training design and delivery. So all of these things are very important when we consider how we support our users, because we support our users not only with repairs and parts and fixes, but we support our users with knowledge. So also with creating documentation, because you're creating a document to give to somebody to tell them how to work something themselves. And then just user support methods in general. How to deal with customers, how to manage a help desk, how help desks in general work, and what we do in general as we're, working to fix computers, do break fix, that sort of thing. So upon completion, students should be able to design and implement training and provide continued support for computer users. So those are our goals for this course. And our goals for today are, Module 0 and Module 1 are assigned concurrently. Module 0 is due a little earlier. I think it's due within the next day or so. It's due fairly early. And then Module 1 is due on Sunday. So I wanted to make sure that you all understand some of the content from Module 1. So I wanted to have a quick look at some of that. So in order to get started, I wanted to have a definition of what computer user support is. And in order to understand computer user support, we have to understand what a computer user support technician is. And so there are many different names for a computer user support technician. A computer user support technician is also known as a help desk technician or a technical support specialist. There are a plethora of other names for these people. If you search jobs in this field, you can find, a dozen different names for the same thing. But the idea is that they essentially all do the same thing, and that's assist customers and clients with issues arising from everyday computer use. The key here being the everyday computer use. The fact that it's everyday computer use means that you're on the front lines. Since you're on the front lines, then you're the first point of contact for most of these people, and you're the one that's, going to be experiencing their frustration. You're the one that's going to, kind of get the brunt of some negative stuff sometimes, but you're also the one who's most likely to help them and fix their problems and, make their day as well. So, you kind of take the good and the bad with this. And that's something that we'll talk about a lot over the course of the semester is that, when we consider a job role in a computer user support field, which there are a good number of them, one of the things that you have to consider is that it requires a certain mentality. And so, because of the fact that, oftentimes you might end up with a client who's not the best. They might be upset. They might think they know better than you. They might think one way or another just because they're human, they're frustrated, they've got things going on in their lives. There's a family friend of mine who I've supported a time or two with their computer. His computer is his only means of communication with a family member of his that lives overseas. So when it is broken and he can't communicate with his family member, granted, he can get a bit frustrated. So one of the big things that we consider when we're, dealing with people who are, kind of in a tough spot is that we should have empathy for them. And there are methods that we can utilize to kind of relate and diffuse situations, and we'll talk about those later on in the course. But, you kind of got to consider a bit of a mentality thing as we enter into this. If you're prone to getting into confrontation, if you're prone to being a bit of a hothead, this might be a good opportunity for you to either learn some self-control or maybe even consider another career path. But either way, it's, these are the front lines. It's everyday computer use. So with that being said, why would you want to consider a job in user support? Well, because we need people, for one thing, so jobs are there. Back in 2010, you can see here that we had a number of computer support specialists and network support specialists that we needed. In 2010, we needed 600,000 computer support specialists and 345,000 network support specialists. And this is according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is the government body that looks at all the jobs in the country, looks at where there are jobs that are lacking, jobs that our country needs, places where we need to grow. And by next year, they're estimating that we're going to need 700,000 jobs in computer support specialists, 445,000 jobs in network support specialists. Big growth in both areas. Now, that's not just total number of jobs. So there aren't just people in those jobs. We're talking about need in those jobs. These are jobs where we need people. 700,000, 445,000, so on and so forth. These are jobs where we need people. So there's a need there, and that need can be filled by you. And there's all sorts of these user support types of roles that you can fill. The first one that we have here isn't really a job role, but it's one that you can do. And that's peer support. And this is informal. This is like helping your buddy out. You know, like if you've ever helped your friend fix their computer, then you're a user support specialist. You just didn't even know it. You know, this is informal. This is not something you're getting paid for. Like if your friend is cool, you know, they might take you out to dinner, maybe buy you a drink. But they're not typically giving you a living wage to do informal support for them. Another thing is part-time, which, you know, part-time is not always ideal, but part-time is a good way to get your foot in the door. You know, part-time can't provide for a family, typically. But you can get your foot in the door and get an opportunity for larger full-time jobs. But there are a lot of part-time opportunities available because small organizations can't justify full-time support staff. A little later on, we'll talk about the idea of profit centers versus cost centers. And IT, by and large, is a cost center for most industries. So when you're dealing with something that just costs you money, even though it can indirectly bolster profits, it's tough to dedicate a lot of budget to that when it could be better spent elsewhere. So you end up making it just a part-time thing. Or you might not get enough tickets. You might not get enough support calls or support requests to really justify having full-time support. Either way, you know, there are reasons why businesses have part-time support needs. Another thing is a user support team. And this is a formal work group that provides support services. So what this basically is a group of people within a company. The support services might not be their only job role, but it is a big part of their job role. And they go around and they provide help when needed. And then finally, the help desk, which is like what we have here at CCC. And that's a single point of contact for users, both internal users and external users, which we have both here at CCC, in need of technology support services. And this could include any one of these or all three of these: a physical location, a telephone hotline, or email, website, some kind of internet communication medium, chat service, what have you. So our physical location here at Cleveland Community College is the library. If you need help from the help desk here at Cleveland Community College, you go to the library. There's the help desk set up, and they can help you out there. They have a telephone number set up. They also have email set up. Let me talk briefly about what internal versus external users are, just so you have that definition. And I can talk about it in relation to Cleveland Community College here. So you have companies that have both employees and customers. So internal users would be those employees. So here at Cleveland Community College, we would have the faculty and staff. They would be considered our internal users. And the external users would be your customers or clients. And of course, here at Cleveland Community College, that would be considered you all, the student. So our help desk here services both internal and external clients. Some help desks only service internal clients. Some help desks only service external clients. Companies might even choose to compartmentalize help desks. So they have a system set up where they have a help desk for internal and a help desk for external. That way they have things compartmentalized to meet needs better. That sort of thing. So that's also an option for user support. And all of these, with the exception of peer support, are options for user support jobs. Help desk is going to be your most often found type of user support job. And it's going to be the user support job that you're most likely going to enter into with a 2-year associate's degree trying to get into an IT industry. Doing some kind of help desk or computer user support or network support technician type of job. That's the most likely job that you'll break into. But then from there, you have upward mobility into many different directions, because one of the benefits of working at a help desk is seeing a lot of different types of problems, building a knowledge base on a lot of different types of problems, and coming up with solutions for a lot of different types of problems. So that's pretty great. A couple other things. A user support center provides a wide range of support services to internal users. So oftentimes, for internal users, you might have a big place set up where a user can come in, get support on equipment, have special equipment that they can use, have people that can walk them through how to use that special equipment, all sorts of different types of services in this one place. That's what a user support center is. So it's kind of like a help desk plus some extra. And since, you have all that special equipment and all that specialized service, that's typically going to be limited to internal users, because it's normally going to be limited based on what industry you are in. User support as IT responsibility. And this is when your information technology department also operates as your user support. To some degree, that happens here at Cleveland Community College. Help desk is the first line of support, but when it gets escalated, oftentimes the IT department then takes over and is our second tier help desk. So we'll talk about the tier system a little later on down the line, what all that means. Um, but you have the IT department that kind of maintains their specializations. But sometimes they get involved in user support based on need. And finally, user support outsourced to a vendor. And that's when you have a contract with an outside vendor to provide user support to internal or external users through a signed agreement. You might be familiar with some outsourced to a vendor external sources. If you've ever called tech support and gotten a call center, heard someone where you weren't quite sure whether or not they were located in America, that was most likely somebody who was in an outsourced call center providing external user support. This isn't ideal because they don't necessarily know the users, they don't necessarily know the product the best, but it's oftentimes cheaper. So it helps out a lot there. And I think that also puts me ahead of where I was back before I figured out my audio wasn't working. So I think we're back now. KSAs. And KSAs are something we're going to discuss a lot throughout the course. And these are knowledge, skills, and abilities. And these are found in every single job description. You just have to know how to pick them out. Now, when we consider KSAs, knowledge, of course, are things you know. Skills are things you can do. And abilities are things that you can do or not do. Which is kind of a weird way to put it, but when you think about it and put it into context, it makes a little more sense. So when you look at job descriptions, what I'd like for you all to do is I'd like for you to all to try to pick out what are the knowledge requirements, what are the skill requirements, and what are the ability requirements. What are the things I need to know? What are the things that I need to be able to do? And what are the things that I need to be able to do or not do? What are the abilities that I need to have? Being able to pick out these KSAs from job requirements will help you in your job hunt. But we'll also talk about KSAs in regard to help desk management and writing a position with KSAs. So KSAs will be a big part of our semester as we go forward. We can talk a little bit more about them. So knowledge, what the worker needs to know to perform a job. These are the years of education, the degree, the certification, the list of specific topics. Skills, what a worker must be able to perform well to do a job. And this is expertise based on practice and experience. And then finally, abilities, functions that a worker can either perform or not. And these are physical abilities, language abilities, and special abilities. So, like, the difference here would be like, a skill would be able to configure TCP/IP, whereas an ability would be able to lift 50 pounds. A skill would be able to configure a Cisco router. An ability would be able to speak Spanish. So you can kind of see the difference between skills and abilities as we put them into context. So now that we have a few terms defined, let's switch gears a minute, and we'll be wrapping it up shortly, and look at how the computer has changed to develop a need for computer user support. So in order to look at in order to look at why we need computer user support in 2019 and 2020, moving forward, we need to look at how computer use has changed over time. So let's start here. This is the UNIVAC. Mainframe computer from the, mid 1900s, 1940s, 1950s. And, you can see that the computer here, it uses vacuum tubes, uses all sorts of different circuits and arrays that are huge. It takes up the entire room. And that's what a computer was 70 years ago, 60 years ago. But in the 1980s and 1990s, we decentralized computing. See, back with that UNIVAC and the ENIAC and all the other big central mainframes, all the computing was done from that one central location. We took computing and we brought it out to the periphery because we created the personal computer in the 1980s and 1990s. So computing was no longer done at one central location. It was spread out to many different locations. And even still, modern advancements led to the development of the cloud. So we're able to take and spread computing out even further, because now, people aren't even just limited to their office in order to do their work. They can put their work on the cloud and do it in the office, at home, at the beach, wherever they're at. So we've decentralized computing. We've taken the computer from one big computer in one big room, and that's the only computer, to now, at a business, there are hundreds of computers. When you have one big computer, it's, it can still kind of be tough to manage, but it's just one big computer. When you have hundreds of computers, the need for support raises exponentially. And every day, we're just introducing more and more devices into the world. That's why we're moving toward IPv6, phasing out IPv4, because we're running out of IPv4 addresses. That's how many devices that we have in the world. So with more and more devices being used by more and more people, at the same time, we need more and more people to support these people with these devices. So this is what made decentralized computing easy. / made it an easy decision. A backlog of requests for new computer applications. If you only had one computer, and that computer could only run one application at a time, then everybody's need had to go in a line. So you'd end up with a backlog of requests. And that's no good. An increase in the number of knowledge workers, and we'll talk about what a knowledge worker is in just a second. People came home, post-industrial revolution, post-World War II. We saw a boom in the number of knowledge workers. The availability of inexpensive personal computers. Apple, IBM, they all started making the personal computer. The availability of inexpensive productivity software. So not only could I get a personal computer, I could put productivity software on it and do my work. And the development of user-friendly graphical user interfaces. So I have a GUI on my personal computer with my inexpensive productivity software. So I don't even have to be very smart. I don't have to particularly, know how to use a computer very well to use a computer to do my work, because it has a graphical user interface on the front end. I just have to know how to do a few clicks, and I can do my work. I can put it all in a spreadsheet, and I can make it happen. We took computers from the very big, we made them very small. A lot of that's thanks to the integrated circuit and things of that nature. We got more knowledge workers. Because we got more knowledge workers, we needed more personal computers. Because we got more personal computers, we needed more productivity software. And we needed to make them friendlier to use. So all of this is related. So if you're in the chat, you can think about this. Blank computing utilizes a centralized infrastructure to store and process data remotely. That is cloud computing. So cloud computing utilizes a centralized infrastructure to store and process data remotely. One of the ways that I like to explain cloud computing is that it's the other person's computer. And that's just what it is. So let's talk about those knowledge workers that I said I'd talk about. So a knowledge worker is a person whose job involves using or handling information. And information is valuable. It's one of the most valuable things that we have, information. So knowledge workers have important jobs. Now, when we look at a knowledge worker there, we just see that their job involves using or handling information. That doesn't require them to be a computer power user. That doesn't require them to know everything about computer science or even anything about computer science at all. They just really know about using information. And not just using information, but using their particular information that they use. So this information, we know this information is valuable. Because we know from other classes, from security classes, from all this other stuff, that people will bend over backwards to get information. They'll do all sorts of illegal things to get information from you. They'll do some shady things to get to get information from you. So information is valuable. And when you look at the types of information a lot of knowledge workers handle, we're talking about financial data. We're talking about personal data. We're talking about business data. This isn't just information that one or two people might perceive as valuable. This is information that a lot of people perceive as valuable. So their jobs are important jobs because they're basically dealing with precious cargo. So it then becomes, but we also said that they don't have to know everything about computers to do their job. So our job as a user support agent, in turn, since their job is to work with information, and information in 2019 is processed on a computer, our job is in turn to support them in their job. And since their job is important, that makes our job important, because our job is then supporting their job. A couple more slides and we'll wrap this one up. A quick look at end user computing. So what is an end user? An end user, for most of our cases in enterprise situations, is going to be our knowledge worker. But it could just be a regular customer. This is the person who actually uses a particular product, any kind of product. And that refers to both business and personal computer use. In business computer use, our end users are knowledge worker. In personal computer use, they're just a client. They're a person who has needs. So when we use the term end user, that's who we're talking about. And this kind of gets us to where we want to be, because this kind of gets us to our Module 1 assignment. So this would be a good slide to wrap up on here. So I'm going to go over this slide and leave you with a couple words, and that'll be it. So to understand the variety of environments and situations in which organizations provide technical support to their knowledge workers, it is helpful to recognize the different types of end users. And these are environment, skill level, frequency of use, software use, features used, and the relationship of the user to the company, whether they're an internal user or an external user. Now here's why we want to classify end users and why we want to make an end user classification tool, which is your Module 1 lab. Every user that walks through your door is going to be different. They're going to come from a different environment. They're going to have a different skill level at the computer. They're going to have a different frequency that they use their computer. They're going to use different software. They're going to use different features of that software. And they may even have a different relationship to the company. They're going to be different. And in order for you to serve that customer to the best of your ability and to treat that customer with the most empathy and the best nature and service that you can give them, you have to do your best to understand that customer and where they're coming from. So the idea here is not that we're creating a survey for the customer to take. We don't want the customer to ever really see this end user classification tool. We don't really want the customer to know that we're classifying them. But we do want to be able to try to classify our customers and help ourselves understand kind of where they're coming from. And we could make a survey for them to take. If we wanted to, as long as we were using customer-friendly language and we weren't, being too over the head with what we were really trying to do here. You know, because if we want to form a good relationship with our clients, we want people who have a good experience, who are willing to come back, who, you know, are understanding and who are, you know, good to work with and all that kind of stuff. We want to be able to kind of have an understanding of where they're coming from and why they are the way they are. And that could be something that we fill out ourselves, and that could be something that they fill out. Or it could be a combination of the two. You just don't necessarily want to let them know, like, oh yeah, I'm keeping tabs on you. Because that might make somebody feel uncomfortable. So that's where I want to wrap up today. For those of you who came to the live stream, thank you for coming. Sorry about the audio issues at the beginning. A little later today, I'll be sending out a survey from the IT department about course delivery methods. If you get it in some of your other classes, you only have to take it once. We're just trying to collect some information about how you all like to take courses and what you all like to do. So we're trying to get that out there and have people take it. Remember to get Module 0 finished up. You want to get that... you want to do that course verification by end of day tomorrow. I'll be sending out personal reminders about that as well. Whether you have or not, you'll get an email from me saying, you know, welcoming you to the class and just making sure that you've completed that. I'm going to edit this video down to cut out the no audio at the beginning and post it in the Blackboard as an announcement. So if you want to revisit it later. And that's all that I have. I'm going to turn back on the music for just a couple minutes as I kind of wrap things up here. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you again for coming. And for those of you who didn't come this week, I hope you're able to come next week. Thank you.